Is Colombia an attractive country for foreign investment? This is what we will try to find out in the next presentation. The Spanish arrived in this part of the world in 1499 and called this land Gran Colombia, which included what we know today by Venezuela, Ecuador and Panama. In 1819 it became an independent state, separating from Venezuela and Ecuador, taking the name of Colombia, which included Panama. In 1903 the Panama separates from Colombia and becomes an independent state, and became Colombia as we know it today. According to the CIA fact book, Colombia's population is estimated at about 45.7 million people. This is the pyramid of Colombian population. 50.8% of the population are female, and 49.2% are men. About 75% of the population lives in cities, and it is estimated that the urban population will grow 1.7% annually through 2015. The life expectancy at birth is 78.2 years to women, and 71.5 years to men. The infant mortality rate is about 16 deaths per 1,000 live births. The maternal mortality rate is 92 deaths per 100,000 live births. About 43% of the population over 25 have at least secondary education. The unemployment rate, in December 2012, was almost 10%, and the unemployment rate in the youth of 15 to 25 years is about 23%. There are about 8% of population living with less than $125 per day, below the income poverty line. About 90% of the population is Catholic. The predominant ethnic groups in Colombian society are Mestizo with 58% of the population, white with 20%, and 14% are mulattoes. According to the United Nations Human Development Report of 2013. In 2012 Colombia was in 91st place of Human Development Index, with an HDI of 0.719. In the following table we can see the positions of the surrounding countries of Colombia. All these countries belong to the group of countries with a high human development. Portugal is in position 43, in the group of countries with a very high human development. The index human development table is led by Norway. Colombia is a presidential representative democratic republic as established in the Constitution of 1991. And the current president is Juan Manuel Santos. Colombia over the years has a history of power struggles and internal guerrilla. In 1948 occurred an armed conflict, called Bogotazo, opposing the Colombian Liberal Party to the Colombian Conservative Party. This conflict was triggered by the death of liberal presidential candidate and caused around 180,000 deaths. Laureano Gómez in 1953 won the elections and publishes a constitution which imposed a totalitarian regime. This government was overthrown in 1954 by a military coup and was appointed interim basis President General Rojas Pinilla. Rojas Pinilla would be a ruthless dictator more than its predecessor, which led to the formation of Marxist-inspired guerrillas such as the FARC. Rojas Pinilla would be overthrown by a coup in 1957 and was arrested for conspiracy in 1963. In 1982 Belisario Betancur Cortaz began the pacification of the country, with amnesty to all political prisoners. But this process was hampered by the drug cartels, which were installed in the country as a parallel power in the 70s. The most important cartel is the Medellin cartel, from which stands out as drug baron, Pablo Escobar. In the mid-80s, with the murder of the Minister of Justice, cartels and guerrillas gained strength, and in 1986, the President Virgilio Barco Vargas declared war on the drug cartels, launching an offensive against the Medellin cartel. At the beginning of the 90s, the drug cartels have unleashed a series of bomb attacks, in retaliation against the confiscation and deportation of its leaders to the United States. President Cesar Gaviria Trujillo, with the help of the United States, launches new offensive against the drug cartels, and as an highlight, resulted in the capture of Pablo Escobar, who would escape from prison in '92. After several attempts of pacification of the country from the end of the 90s, in 2010, the current president, Juan Manuel Santos, has started negotiations for an agreement.
No dia 4 de setembro, o governo colombiano e as Farc anunciaram que iriam começar as negociações de paz. Representantes dos dois lados vão discutir o processo na Noruega e em Cuba em um prazo de 6 a 8 meses. Esta é a quarta tentativa de diálogo, mas agora existe mais chance de dar certo. Nós, das Farc, mantemos uma sincera esperança de que o regime não vai tentar repetir o mesmo erro do passado. Este acordo é diferente dos anteriores. Haverá uma discussão sem interrupções e sem intermediários sobre os pontos em que concordamos para chegar a um acordo final.
¿Sobre qué? Sobre los puntos acordados para llegar al acuerdo final.
O governo preparou o terreno com uma lei de restituição de terras para deslocados pelo conflito, uma das exigências das Farc, que foi fundada em 1964 por uma rebelião camponesa. O Congresso está avaliando a suspensão das sentenças contra guerrilheiros com garantias para a conversão política deles. Finalmente, a mais antiga guerrilha da América Latina mudou a estratégia. Timoleón Jiménez, o novo chefe das Farc, anunciou o fim da tomada de reféns e concordou em falar sobre o abandono do uso de armas. As Forças Armadas Revolucionárias da Colômbia estão enfraquecidas. A organização tem 9.000 membros, 2 vezes menos do que 15 anos atrás. Eles estão encurralados em regiões cada vez mais difíceis na Colômbia e sob pressão permanente do Estado. O principal obstáculo a um acordo é a rejeição do governo de um cessar-fogo durante as negociações. Negociar um conflito dessa forma é um risco permanente, porque cada ação pode colocar em risco os esforços. Os colombianos estão cansados do conflito que já causou 600.000 mortes e atrapalha o desenvolvimento econômico do país. De acordo com uma pesquisa, 2/3 da população apoiam o diálogo entre o governo e as Farc.
The GDP of Colombia in 2012 was $500 billion. And GDP per capita with parity purchasing power was about $10,700. GDP has grown more than 4% per year for the past 3 years, continuing almost a decade of strong economic performance. The inflation rate was, in 2012, 3.2%. Rating of the country is BBB. And the public debt represents 40.2% of GDP. The exports in 2012 were nearly $60 billion. The main exports are petroleum, coal, emeralds, coffee, nickel, cut flowers, bananas, and apparel. The major export partners are United States of America, the Netherlands, and China. The imports were almost $55.5 billion. The main imports are industrial equipment, transportation equipment, consumer goods, chemicals, paper products, fuels, and electricity. The major trading partners are United States of America, China, Mexico, and Brazil. Colombian trade balance it's positive about $4.4 billion. The reforms implemented in recent years have made a clear difference in the ease of starting a business. One example of this is the time required for opening of business that decreased to 14 days. Geronimo Martins opened the first 5 ARA stores, creating 155 jobs, and has the intention to open 150 stores, investing $400 million in the next 3 years.
Jerónimo Martins era un emigrante gallego que llegó a Lisboa, Portugal, en el año de 1792 para abrir una tienda pequeña de sacos de trigo y maíz. Luego este se convirtió en un distribuidor de la realeza portuguesa y después llegó a tener un emporio que tiene más de 2.800 tiendas en Portugal y Polonia. Ahora la cadena llega a Colombia con el convencimiento de haber hecho una excelente inversión.
Lo mejor de estas firmas y acuerdos de cooperación comercial es cuando se hacen realidad. Fue en noviembre de 2012 cuando el presidente Santos, en su visita oficial a Portugal, se reunió con 400 empresarios lusos para promocionar la inversión en Colombia y visitó un supermercado del grupo portugués. 4 meses después se inauguró el centro de distribución de los supermercados ARA y esta semana 3 tiendas en Armenia y Santa Rosa de Cabal.
Fue la dimensión del país, el potencial de desarrollo que acá identificamos.
Hace más o menos un año estuvimos con varios de los directivos de esta gran empresa en el Palacio Presidencial y me decían, nosotros hemos escogido a Colombia como un punto importante en el crecimiento de nuestra empresa.
En el 2013 la inversión será de 100 millones de euros, es decir, unos 245.000 millones de pesos solo en el eje cafetero representado en 30 supermercados.
Con mano de obra colombiana, con materia prima colombiana, me mostraron este producto que tiene un origen extranjero. 1.900 pesos cuesta este jabón. Ellos comenzaron a producir su propia marca, 100% colombiano, todo es colombiano, y en lugar de 1.900 cuesta 1.050 pesos.
Para abastecer sus cadenas, los portugueses compran productos colombianos y generan cadenas de valor. En un futuro se espera que con productos hechos en Colombia abastezcan otros mercados como el brasilero.
Esto es lo que queremos empujar por todos lados, por todas partes. Centros de distribución, centros de producción, más empleo, más prosperidad, más responsabilidad social, es decir, mejor futuro.
Colombian government has defined 3 areas for who want to invest in the country: manufacturing, agribusiness, and service. In manufacturing, the investment must be made in automotive and auto parts, cosmetics and toiletries, construction materials, and textiles, apparel and garments. In agribusiness, the investment must be made in biofuels, cocoa, forestry, horticulture, and shrimp. In service, the investment must be made in opportunities for private equity funds, business process outsourcing, hotel infrastructure and tourism, sector of goods and services, oil, and software and IT services. The Colombian government, through Pro-Export, established in which part of the country should install the new companies. Let's see examples of companies to install in East Central Zone and Antioquia. Now, Let's see the location of infrastructure of support as ports and airports. And finally, the distribution of companies by sector in the country. The incentives for foreign investment are: single 15% income tax rate for industrial users of goods and services, and for operators. No custom taxes, VAT and customs duties, on merchandise imported from abroad. VAT exemption for raw materials, inputs and finished goods sold from the national customs territory to industrial users of free trade zones. VAT exemption on merchandise sales to foreign markets. Exports made from free trade zones to foreign countries may apply for the benefits of international trade agreements signed by Colombia. Possibility of performing partial processing outside of the free trade zone for up to 9 months. Possibility of selling to the national territory 100% of the goods or services produced in the free trade zone, with customs tariffs payable only over the percentage of inputs imported from third countries. Dividends paid to foreign companies or entities not domiciled in Colombia may be remitted abroad free of tax. Only if the profits from which the dividends are paid have been taxed at the corporate level. Otherwise, tax is imposed at the 33% corporate tax rate. The ownership in Colombia is permitted to 100%, but not in all sectors. Let's see. Insurance, 100%. Banks, 100%, only with permission of central bank. Public services as water, gas, transportation and telecommunications. Must be domiciled in Colombia and legally constituted under Colombian law as a corporation. FDI in Colombia had a deceleration between 2008 and 2010 caused by the international crisis, and in 2012 was around $20 billion. The government has a plan which foresees spending about $50 billion by 2018 in transport infrastructure. This investment will have the help of the private sector, through public-private partnerships. There are already 6,000 kilometers concession and is expected to be 10,700 kilometers in 2014. Currently there are about 750 kilometers and believes that are in 2018. 4,400 kilometers, an increase of 455%. Currently there are about 850 kilometers operational, and is expected that, in 2018, 2,400 kilometers, an increase of 188%. Ports moves currently around 132 million tons, and is expected to move approximately 254 million tons at 2018. Airports moves now 20 million passengers. The aim is to get 34 million in 2018, an increase of 67%. The main investors in Colombia are United States of America, United Kingdom, Spain, and Mexico, and have trade agreements with Andean Community of Nations, that includes Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia. With Mercosur, that includes Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. North Triangle countries, which are Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, have with bilateral agreements Chile, Mexico, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Canada, European Union, United States of America, Norway, and Iceland. They are negotiating new treaties with South Korea, Panama, and Turkey. In response to our initial question, we think Colombia is a good country to invest because the World Bank described Colombia as the 5th country in the world, and the first in Latin America, in protecting investors. The average GDP growth in Colombia has been significantly greater than the world average in the last decade. Additionally, according to a 2009 PricewaterhouseCoopers report, Colombia has the most productive labor force in all of South America. Colombia has 5 international maritime ports with direct access to the Atlantic and 3 to the Pacific Ocean, as well as 11 airports with international frequencies. 3 universities in Colombia are ranked in the Latin American top 30. Colombia has signed 10 free trade agreements with 47 countries, facilitating preferential access to over 1.5 billion consumers. The cons to invest in Colombia are the internal guerrilla, the production and drug trafficking, and high crime rate, although with significant improvements.
For the end, I would like you to see a promotional video about foreign investment in Colombia.
Looking at it from any perspective, you should invest in Colombia. Because you can see it is strategically located only 3 hours away from Miami and 5 hours from Sao Paulo. You can see Colombia is an economic phenomenon. It has the most stable growth of any country in the region since the 1970s. Colombia surpassed the average economic growth rate for all of Latin American countries by 2 points. According to Merrill Lynch, during times of crisis, it has the 4th lowest risk of any country in the world. Stability your company can count on can be reinforced when using legal stability contracts with the Colombian government. Colombia has never defaulted on its debt and has never experienced hyperinflation. Right now, the country's inflation rate is 2 points below the average for Latin American countries. Foreign investment in Colombia has increased over 300% in only 5 years. The country is open to the world, offering new opportunities for all who are interested. Currently, international trade accounts for 30% of Colombia's GDP. Colombian exports have doubled in only 3 years. If it's about getting to know a different point of view, Colombia has it all. From Colombia, you'll have preferential access to more than 1.2 billion consumers thanks to international trade agreements. For 2 consecutive years, Colombia has been the Latin American country to make the most reforms that improve the overall business environment. According to the 2009 Doing Business report, Colombia has the 2nd most competitive business environment in the region. Multinational companies recognize Colombian managers as the best qualified in the region, owing to their work, commitment, and ingenuity. Colombia has the most competitive free trade zone model in Latin America, with a 15% income tax rate. Unlike other countries, there is no requirement for export-oriented production. These benefits are available from anywhere in the country thanks to the single enterprise free trade zone model. Furthermore, if you buy capital goods for your business, 40% of the cost can be deducted from your income tax. There are special incentives for different sectors, including tourism, which offers an income tax exemption for new hotel projects and for ecotourism projects, and a permanent income tax exemption on forestry ventures. But Colombia is not just about opportunities for your company. It also offers high quality of life for those wishing to invest and live in the country. In Colombia, you'll find 45 year-round 18-hole golf courses. Many of these sites have been designed by famous golf architects, including Jack Nicklaus and Mark Mahana. You can also shop at world-class luxury stores in Colombia's most exclusive shopping centers. Each day, new eyes look to Colombia. Thanks to the country's democratic security policy, Bogotá is now safer than Washington, D.C. According to the UNDP, the number of foreign visitors has doubled in 3 years. Cartagena is a point of departure for the Royal Caribbean and Princess Cruise Lines, as well as a point of arrival for the Norwegian, Holland America, and Celebrity Cruise Lines. Over 150 cruise ships are expected to dock at Cartagena, Santa Marta, and San Andreas. Colombian education provides students access to over 26 schools that give the SAT test. 19 schools award the International Baccalaureate Organization Diploma, IBO, and 3 Colombian universities are among the top 30 universities in Latin America. From any perspective, Colombia is your investment destination. Why? In everything, Colombia uses the best raw material, the passion of the Colombian people. Invest in Colombia. Work, commitment, ingenuity.